Hey, morning, everybody. It is fantastic to have you here. I am Emerson Lotzi. I'll be hosting this show we call The Sweat. It is presented by DraftKings. 55 minutes of just stuff. Like the Gojo boys are going to be here while they're very depressed on this hump day morning. What else do we have? The gorgeous golf gurus talking some salaries, who to roster in DFS in the first PGA Tour event of the season. Oh, plus, let's go ahead and poke over to the DK Sportsbook and look at some early week 2 spreads, because week 2 of the NFL season that kicks off tomorrow night. Oh my God, it's going to be Chargers and Chiefs. Don't mind if I do, if you know what I mean. All right, but let's start by splurging or saving. Who will our baseball panel splurge on? Who will our baseball panel decide to say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to save some cash. Let's go. Gary and Thorne, Eric Halterman, Nick Fryer. Good morning, guys. Really great to have you here. It's an eight game slate. Fryer, I do want to ask you something really quick. I just saw this pop up on my timeline like moments ago. You see the comments here from Aaron Judge last night when he was asked if he would consider signing with Boston next season. He goes, we'll talk about that at the end of the year. How much would you love that, big boy? 2 taters last night.
I would just love to see the Yankees fans lose their minds over getting their beast. And look, if that would make
you guys should probably just focus on signing your own players to big contracts. Okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
I don't need you to butt in here, pal. Judge even said that Red Sox fans, Gary, are some of the best in baseball. I don't hear him saying that about Jays fans.
He did after that Jays fan gave the ball to the kid wearing the Aaron Judge jersey in Toronto back in May.
Okay,
he's a very diplomatic guy, man.
Wasn't Judge a Red Sox fan as a kid, or isn't he been seen wearing a Red Sox jersey T-shirt like in the past?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
Yep,
yeah.
It's very true.
I heard Rafael Devers is a fan of money. You guys should try maybe working that out.
Yeah, well, you know what? The Red Sox are not fans of giving out money, so yeah, could be an issue getting Aaron Judge to Boston. Anywho, okay, let's splurge, let's save. Garion, you mentioned you wanted an opening tirade, so you want to splurge or save at pitcher?
I'm doing like a single income family splurge. Like, remember when you were a kid and you wanted McDonald's, but your mom was like, have a Lunchable. That's more than I was willing to spend anyway.
Lunchables aren't that bad, though. Let's go ahead and admit that. They're on the same level.
Love the Lunchable. I don't know if they're on the same level as McDonald's, but they're good. I enjoyed them as a kid. So we're going with Sonny Gray, who, again, not like crazy expensive, but, you know, he's expensive. He's $8,300. Gray kind of gets knocked a lot because he's not that guy who's going to throw 7 or 8 innings. I mean, I'm not sure if it's a thing where the Twins are protecting him because he has been on the IL a couple times this season, but, you know, 6 innings is about his max. However, his last 9 starts, 2.27 ERA, a strikeout rate up around 27%, and Kansas City's just been terrible as of late. You know, you look in September, they are dead last in the American League in WOBA and WRC+. I think Nick and I are going to have very similar answers to some of these questions based upon his reaction. What else is new? But yes, I think Sonny Gray sort of stands out amongst the rest tonight.
Nick, why did you have the reaction you just reacted and had on your face?
Well, because now I know that Gary and I are in lockstep on more than one play, which, hey, you know what? That means it's a good play, but I also get concerned about being chalky. I want to give people other options. But Sonny Gray is the way to go tonight, if you're trying to pay up at pitcher. But still kind of save a little bit of money too. Much better at home. 70 Ks in 60 2/3 innings. I know that KC isn't striking out much against right-handed pitching, but he did just punch out 10 against them when we saw him just about a month ago. Long enough where it's not that recency bias for everything. But if you are looking to find a different option, but still kind of save a little bit, be in that same range while you're paying up, I do like David Peterson going up against the Cubs tonight. I know last start, 3 2/3 innings, so not exactly ideal, but he's been racking up a lot of strikeouts. Even in that shortened outing, he got 7 Ks. He's been 7-6 strikeouts in each of his last 4 outings. So again, another guy who can still go and get you some points, a little bit more of a risk. I still like Gray more, but if you're worried about him being too chalky because he seems like such a obvious play tonight, Peterson's another way to pivot.
Eric, to splurge or save at pitcher? That is the question.
Yeah, I guess it's the minor splurge as well. I'm going to stick with Nick's second guy there, David Peterson. 8,600 against the Cubs is my favorite, although I think Sonny Gray would beam it on number 2 here. The Cubs ranked 22nd in Team WRC Plus in the second half, so about as friendly of a matchup as you could ask for Peterson. And I'm actually really happy to see him in this price range, getting the respect that he deserves. That he doesn't always get because he's stuck on the Mets and isn't necessarily a locked-in member of their starting rotation. But he's having quite a strong season. Strikeout rate about 27.5%. Ground ball rate just over 51%. Among pitchers who have a ground ball rate of at least 50% in at least as many innings as he's thrown, that's the second highest strikeout rate there, trailing only Shane McClanahan. So it's a pretty rare combination of getting whiffs and getting grounders, which means that even when he has off nights like he did his last time out, he couldn't complete 4 innings, he still struck out 7 batters and gave you some value. So I think it's quite a good price range for a guy facing a pretty unimposing lineup tonight here.
Nick, before I ask you if you're going to splurge or save in the infield, what's your top-ranked Lunchable?
I can't even remember. I mean, that was like, what? I was 13 when I last had one of those?
They're still around now. Gary, do you have a favorite Lunchable?
I don't eat them now. I'm a grown
it was
man.
pizza. Pretty strongly with pizza.
Yeah.
Kind of a surprise move here. Didn't love the crappy pepperoni, so a double cheese man.
Okay, cool. Eric, do you have a favorite Lunchable?
It's been too long since I've had one, but
Damn
give
it,
me
guys.
one with
Damn
the crackers and the gross cheese and the gross meat. You know that one?
Yep, bologna. Bologna's my top one. Pizza second, and then
That says a lot.
And
Okay.
then ham rounding out. Now let's go to the infield. You want to splurge or save there, Nick?
I'll tell you what, the guy I have for the infield is definitely not baloney. Save here,
Woo!
Josh Jung, who I know Gary's high on. I know Eric's high on as well. Everybody should be high on this guy right now. It's so long, especially as long as he is a value play. 2.2K tonight, going up against a left-hander. As long as it's not a superstar left-hander right now, you've got to play Josh Jung, especially at this price range. I know he's been a little kind of very strikeout happy, but he has 5 extra base hits in his 7 MLB games. He's torching left-handed pitching in the process there. Just got another extra base hit against someone last night. JP Sears, in his time in Oakland, right-handed hitters have a 41.3% hard contact rate against them and a 41.3% fly ball rate against them too. That's helped lead to 5 home runs, 2 doubles, a triple, and a 393 WOBA.
All right, Eric, what do you want to do here, man?
Yeah, there's a few very cheap rookies that I think are interesting every single slate. Young is one of them, but my favorite tonight is Vinnie Pasquentino, $100 more than the minimum. He's facing Sonny Gray, which, as was mentioned earlier, not the easiest matchup on the slate, but I don't care. Vinnie Pasquentino he's easily a $4,000 guy to me. You're getting him half off here. His 119 WRC plus on the season is good enough already. But he's actually underperforming his expected slugging according to StatCast by a further 62 points. So he's actually hit the ball as if he's considerably better than an already pretty good 119 WRC plus, a number that again would already be far too good for a $2,100 price range. His combination of contact and power is very unique. Barrel rate nearly 11%, strikeout rate of about 13%. The only other hitter who's come to the plate at least 200 times, struck out less than 14% of the time with a barrel rate in the double digits, is Juan Soto. He's not Juan Soto yet, but when you're in a category with just him, that says quite a lot. Again, I'd easily pay $4,000 for him, and you can get him for half that price tag.
Gary, and you feel like splurging on a dude tonight here on DK?
No, I'll save too. I definitely had Young sort of circled. He's got some amazingly hilarious statistics so far. 24 plate appearances, has 3 barrels in his 11 batted ball events, but has also struck out 13 times. So sort of doing his best, like, 2018 Joey Gallo impression for the Rangers, which is a pretty good player. Don't get me wrong. So I think at 2,200 against Sears, that's really nice. Eric mentioned another rookie who I'm absolutely in love with. I think redraft, we're going to spend all winter talking about Vinny P. But one rookie who maybe doesn't get that much love, possibly because he's sort of in the mid-tier in pricing and possibly because he's sort of in the mid-tier of how we look at the rookies, Jose Miranda has been fantastic this season. And he's been specifically fantastic since the All-Star break. He's batting above 300 going back to the Midsummer Classic. He's got tons of power in his bat. He's been hitting primarily in the 3 spot or the cleanup spot for the just absolutely decimated Minnesota Twins lineup. Miranda hit a home run last night. Now, that was off a lefty in Chris Bubik. He's in his best case scenario against left-handed pitching, but he's been above league average against right-handed pitching all season long as well. So considering how fantastically he's been swinging the bat the last 2 months, I think Miranda at 3,200 against, Zach Greinke's fine. He's done a decent job of sort of limiting hard contact this season, but very contact-oriented pitcher in general. I think Miranda could possibly do some damage tonight.
All right, Nick, let's go to the outfield. Splurge or save at this position, which a couple Boston connections at the top of the salary list here, man. Aaron Judge, future Red Sox. And then you have former Red Sox outfielder Mookie Betts.
Yeah, don't bring up Mookie. That
Okay.
one gets me upset. But I'm going to use a phrase, Emerson, that I don't think you're very familiar with. I'm going to go fiscally responsible because I don't want to say I'm splurging here. I don't want to say I'm saving here because Anthony Santander, 4.8K going up against Patrick Corbin. It's definitely more on the pay up side, but not immensely expensive. And you can still fit Aaron Judge in your lineup if you're using Santander. 248 ISO against left-handed pitching this season, 44.2% fly ball rate, 34.6% hard contact rate against left-handed pitching. I know Corbin did pretty well of late, but that run came to an end last time out. He gives up a lot of line drives, a lot of fly balls, and a lot of hard contact to right-handed hitting. So I love Santander in this spot.
Could be part of what some are considering the best stack of the day as well, Mr. Nick. Gary, and who do you want in the outfield?
It should go on record that Nick and I had the exact same 3 picks for this.
This is
segment.
terrible, and I hate this segment.
Usually,
you guys are boring.
Eric and I do that.
Yeah.
So it's nice to switch it up a little bit. I'll just pivot slightly here. I think Santander is, without question, the best option in this Baltimore game. I think maybe you can get some variance in your stacks with a Cedric Mullins, even with an Adley Rutschman. I mean, if you look at Rutschman's split so far this season, he's been like sneaky terrible as a right-handed batter. He might want to actually talk to Cedric Mullins about whether it's worth looking into being a left-handed batter full-time, like Mullins made the transition a couple of years back. But someone like Mullins who, unfortunately, if you're putting Rutschman into a stack, he's going to remain in that 2 spot in the Orioles lineup. They don't really move him around based on the handedness of the pitcher. Mullins, if he's in there, is probably going to be batting like 8th against the lefty, which would make him, again, a little bit unappealing to people when they're just kind of leafing through the lineups before lock. But Washington's bullpen is also a tire fire. So at some point, they're going to use some right-handed relievers. And I think that's maybe where Cedric Mullins can come in and really sort of differentiate those stacks. Because again, Patrick Corbin's got a 6.66 expected ERA. There are going to be people stacking the Orioles tonight. So you might want to find a way to make it a little bit different.
All right, Eric, bring us home here, dude.
Yeah, unusual for me to not be copying these two, so I guess ignore what I'm about to say. But I really like the Diamondbacks' young left-handed outfielders against Michael Grove tonight. Let's call it Corbin Carroll as my number 1 pick here at 3,000 because he's the most talented, I believe, of the bunch, even though he's the least proven. Only 11 games so far at the major league level. But this is the guy who, when he was promoted, was the number 1 fantasy prospect in the game, according to RotoWire's James Anderson. Striking out a bit much in his first 11 games, just shy of 30% with a strikeout rate, but he's had close to a league average barrel rate, which is a good sign. He's a potential 5-tool guy, although it might be 4.5 with merely good power. It seems like he's showing hints of everything already. Michael Grove for the Dodgers, not a super highly rated rookie, just 7 strikeouts against 5 walks so far in his major league career, which isn't even 10 innings long. I like Carroll's teammates, Dalton Varsho, Jake McCarthy, Alec Thomas. You can only fit 3 of those guys in there, but Carroll, is the one to get if you get just one.
Eric, you are the baloney of Lunchables. You are the best. You do not copy homework. You are the homework. Nick and Garian, please be better. That's all the time we have for baseball. Coming up, though, the boys of the Gojo Show are standing by. We're going to talk all things sports and stuff, including Dallas's Dak dilemma. All right, did you know you can check out the Gocho Show every weekday to hear from former Notre Dame teammates Mike Golick Jr. and Brandon Newman? They offer their unique perspective on like sports and everything that's kind of cooking in pop culture. We have a graphic made for this thing, so you can listen to them share giggles and tears together wherever you feel like listening to your favorite podcast. What is that? Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio app, and more. Like when I say more, like and more, what would that even be, Golick?
So at this point, I think and more is like you can watch us on YouTube now, which is cool.
Bam.
We're on the DraftKings YouTube channel. And speaking of watching people, Emerson, Brandon and I were watching you on the Sweat before we got on here. And we noticed you're all dressed up today. Like, do you have to go to court after this? What's going on?
No,
no. Nice.
I haven't been to court in quite some time. No, I wear a jacket a lot because I'm a professional. I'm the host of this show. I want, I believe it's science when you wear a jacket. All right, yeah, and a little bit of shorts, I guess. When you wear a jacket, people tend to believe more things that you say. It's why news people always have a tie and jacket on. You know what I mean? Brandon, you got to believe what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I definitely need to start wearing a jacket because I don't even believe half the things I say. So maybe it'll work for myself as well.
Dude, look
and
at
also,
you.
You're proving a point. I have a feeling that about 80% of the people that come on our podcast are wearing shorts.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of a weird home and home right now with you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And I know we were talking a little bit off camera, too, before we got on. Before we dive into like some of the sad stuff, Mike, what is your top-ranked Lunchable?
So actually for the top-ranked Lunchable for me, I know you're very pro bologna, Emerson, but I'm kind of a classic turkey and cheese guy.
Okay.
Just the turkey and the yellow American there that comes with the cracker. You usually get a nice juice box with it. And then I forget what the specific candy was with that. Sometimes it rotated. I think it was usually a Reese's peanut butter cup. And that's probably why I have a good word association with it because of the dessert, because I'm fat.
Yeah. I mean, Brandon, I'm old enough to remember when it was just like a cookie in there, not a piece of candy.
Yeah, old school Chips Ahoy cookie.
Hell
but
yeah.
Now, when I left the game, it was the Snickers, fun-size Snickers
Damn.
with the pepperoni pizza one.
Yeah.
Now, I love the pepperoni pizza one because really what you got to do is use all those toppings for 2 good pizzas and then throw away the other one. Who needs it? You just got to get all that toppings and all that sauce on those cold pepperoni slices.
Yeah, they were like cold little like cracker wafer things, almost like thick hosts, like when you go to mass. So speaking of that, guys, this is we're gonna get the hard part out of the way first. Golick, like y'all's team here had a rough little outing. That was a demoralizing loss to Marshall. Now all of a sudden you have Marcus Freeman has started his head coaching career in South Bend, like 0-3. You've lost your quarterback for what's likely going to be the season. How much confidence here are you losing in Notre Dame football, dude?
I appreciate, by the way, the transition of speaking of communion to Notre Dame football. That's not lost on me. No, you know what? I would tell people, while it feels bad, and losing to Marshall is a non-starter. Can't happen. Everyone in South Bend knows that right now. The 0-3 number that everyone's so latched onto and so freaked out about. Marcus Freeman becomes the first Notre Dame head coach to start his career 0-3. You look at who those 3 losses are against. Oklahoma State in the bowl game, who is now 7th in the country, and that was a better roster that you played against in the Fiesta Bowl, against a coach in Mike Gundy who's now won over 150 games in his coaching career. Week 1 against Ohio State on the road in a true road game with a new head coach, a new quarterback that is now injured against the team that's probably going to play Alabama or Georgia in the national championship. And then, yes, you stub your toe at home against a group of 5 team from a conference that is apparently the juggernaut. Who knew the Sun Belt East?
Yes.
Well, I knew the Sun Belt had good teams, but the Sun Belt East is now the SEC West in college football. And so when you put that all together, I think you look at a situation now, Emerson, that can walk out healthier than it was before. Marcus Freeman going into year 1 with a team that people looked at as, all right, there are college football playoff hopes coming off week 1. That did nothing to dissuade that because that was a closer game than people expected. Now you're going to have people look away for a little bit, and you're going to have Marcus Freeman in this group with time to do the work of developing the program, of getting used to what the vantage point is for him as the head coach now, and then I think put them in a much better position going forward where you're going to have that foundation still in place. You've got a guy who's an ace recruiter, and you've got a little bit of time to figure out what being a head coach at 36 for the first time looks like in South Bend without all of the national pressure that comes with what usually has been around this program.
Brandon, on Sunday, when the team would normally have a day off to rest, Freeman called for practice. So what's your biggest concern right now for Notre Dame?
I have no concerns for Notre Dame, actually. Yes,
you think everything's great? Now you're dealing with the backup quarterback through that pick six, right? Second play when he came in.
No, yeah, I understand. I saw the game. Thank you so much, Emerson. I'm trying to tell you that it could be worse because Tommy Rees couldn't be there as offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
It could be worse because Al Gordon could be there, not be there as a defensive coordinator. I think Marcus Freeman has the right pieces around him, and instead of it being just this team that was top 10 and was going to continue to just work through the schedule because it's such easy. Now we got a real football team that's working things out, and every game is going to matter. The schedule looks a lot more challenging than it did before at the beginning of the season, and I like that Marcus Freeman has to go through some adversity because Mike will tell you, people have to learn how to be head coaches at Notre Dame. People don't realize the steroids that other away teams get going into that stadium and wanting to make a name for themselves. We've been a part of teams that have lost to South Florida on that field, Syracuse, Pitt. Yeah. It's been bad out there. I think we just beat UConn, thank God. Or did we lose to UConn?
We lost to UConn.
This isn't new. This isn't new. This is a part of the adversity. I think Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman is going to be better for it after the season.
All right. I think Brian Kelly, too. Brian Kelly started 1-3, didn't he?
It wasn't great at the beginning of that. No. There were losses to Tulsa in that tenure, too.
Yeah,
there were a bunch of things that went wrong here. I'm fine. Why do you ask?
I know.
Fine.
I know. And again, I want to remind you, too, I'm a massive Notre Dame guy as well. Like, people are consistently giving me crap. Hey, they're going to rock green jerseys against Cal on Saturday, so who knows? Maybe that'll bring like a little bit of luck of the Irish, right, to the table.
Yeah.
Let's continue the conversation of tough starts. We can go to Dallas. Dak Prescott, he has had surgery on his thumb. Jerry Jones expects to have him back in 4 weeks, which may be a little aggressive here. Mike, odds makers have downgraded Dallas in a big way. Look at your screen. Plus 650 to win the division. Longest odds in the NFC East. How possible is it the Cowboys can survive Prescott's injury?
That's not possible.
Yeah.
And
okay.
I just think, one, Jerry's timeline for this, I would go back to the last time, and now they're not the same injuries, but the last time we had a marquee thumb injury, I believe that I remember, was Drew Brees, and we saw what difficulty that gave him coming back on the other side. And Emerson, what's more is, when we've had other quarterbacks like that, and Drew Brees coming back from injury as an example, he came back behind one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. Right now, Dak Prescott is behind a line that's got a lot of soul searching to do, got even more injured in game one than it came into the season as, and is searching around for weapons. And so I just think right now what Philadelphia's got seems to be remarkably consistent. The Washington football team on offense is going to ride the Carson Wentz wave, but there's going to be some good in that. And even the Giants under Brian Dable showed signs of life, showed aggressiveness in the way that they approach things here. So I don't know if I believe that Dallas will bottom out and finish last in the division, especially if Dak really is able to come back through 4 weeks. But I think there's going to be a lot of tough days ahead for Cowboys fans. I know I just tried to blow sunshine and rainbows for Notre Dame fans. I don't know if those same clouds are going to part for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, Brandon, the original timetable for a return, I believe, was 6 to 8 weeks. I mean, what kind of risk would Jerry Jones be taking in trying to rush Dak Prescott back here?
I mean, at this point in time, you got to think about how much Jerry Jones wants to keep Dak Prescott around. Obviously, he's got the contract, he's got the money, he has to be there for a certain amount of time, but Jerry Jones has to be looking into the future. They already got a situation with Zeke and Tony Pollard where they're going to have to part ways with one of them, and it's probably going to be the guy that makes the most money of those two. So I think they're in rebuild situation right now. I think he forces him back and gets him back as soon as he can, just so we can see what they can make of this 17-game season. Let's not forget how long the season is now, but Mike's right, and I know we're going to talk about the Giants soon. I like them more than I like the Cowboys, so I do think they will bottom out and end up at the bottom of the NFC East at the end of the season.
Well, yeah, Brandon. I mean, the Giants have the second-best odds to win the NFC East, and Brian Daboll proved that he has balls of steel when he had that two-point conversion call over the weekend that helped the Giants knock off the Titans. Titans were the number one seed in the AFC last season here, guys. Rookie head coaches went 4-0 on Sunday. The fifth rookie head coach could not hack it. So, yeah, which call was more shocking to you here, Brandon? Dayball's 2-point try.
How dare you? How dare you?
Hold on a second. I have to finish the question. Which call was more shocking to you, Brandon? Dayball's 2-point try or Nathaniel Hackett calling for a 64-yard field goal? And why was it Nathaniel Hackett calling for a 64-yard field goal?
Yes. Exactly. The reason why it's Nathaniel Hackett calling for a 64-yard field goal, one is because they have Russell Wilson as their starting quarterback getting all that Walmart money.
Yeah.
Two is because quarterbacks or head coaches on the road should be going for two way more frequently than we see them. Like what Dayball did was what the precedent should be set going into the season. More guys should be going for two, like Mike Tomlin and the Steelers back in the day, just because it's the smart play.
Mike, Hackett admitted yesterday Denver should have gone for it on 4th down. Like that's never a good thing. But maybe he had to step up and admit that he made a mistake. Although, hey, if he makes that, McManus makes that kick, we're like, oh, what a brilliant call.
Well, yeah, we tend to outcome all of this stuff. So everyone who's loving up Mike McDaniel for going for it on 4th and 7 and Brian Daboll for going for 2 at the end of the game, keep that same energy when it doesn't work, because we absolutely killed Brandon Staley. And I say we as in y'all, because I loved what Brandon Staley did last year. But everyone else starts coming the minute it doesn't work once or twice in the middle of the season. It's like hitting on 16 at the blackjack table. You do it all the time. So, no, wasn't surprised by that one. With the Hackett situation, yeah, we had hardly ever seen this. And you can't find anyone to defend it, which is such a rarity in modern football. Usually, someone's willing to stand up and say, no, the numbers nerds are wrong, or no, the tape grinders are wrong. But we are arm in arm. We have found the thing to unify warring factions on football's internet.
If the hardest job in professional sports is quarterback, then the easiest job is Wednesday morning quarterback here, Mike. What is your biggest overreaction after 1 week of NFL football?
That Trey Lance is somehow washed. That's the biggest overreaction I've seen.
Oh, I don't know.
I am going Oppo on that one and saying, let me see the guy on a dry track, because those monsoon conditions on the wavy lined turf at Soldier Field aren't going to be the thing that I use to make the judgment on this. I still think you saw plenty of big shot plays in that first half. I think you saw also, and for me, what didn't get talked about by anyone nearly enough was Trey Lance and his use of that creative run game. We have been waiting for so long to see how Kyle Shanahan was going to use Trey Lance as an addition to the most versatile rushing package in pro football. And now I really want to see that on a field where they're not worried about, all right, his ability to get out in the open field and cut. He's a dynamic athlete and a powerful runner. And I think we're going to see that show up more and more as people are already somehow calling for Jimmy Garoppolo on the field.
Yeah, maybe an unpopular opinion here, but Justin Fields was the worst of the two quarterbacks in that game. Brandon, what are you overreacting to after 1 week?
That Justin Jefferson is going to be the best wide receiver in the NFL at the end of the season. I think he's going to prove it. And also that Kirk Cousins is going to be an MVP candidate.
Oh, yeah.
And Michael Irvin is going to look a little less crazy. I love the flip in the NFC North right now with the Vikings taking charge. Obviously, Mike will say it's because the Packers were injured or limping into that game. I'm saying it's a new day. Kirk Cousins has multiple weapons.
Yep.
Jalen Reagor, Adam Thielen, didn't even mention him. And then Dalvin Cook coming out the backfield with all these running backs getting busy in the flats after week 1. I just like what the Vikings are putting down. I'm probably just still used to rooting for them because we had Kyle Rudolph there for so long, but our boy Harrison Smith is there too, doing his thing, holding it down as a safety position. I like the Vikings right now, and I like them to win the NFC North.
Rudolph, the red zone reindeer, baby. And Reed T. Fowler, one of our NFL analysts here, he's been in on the Vikings all offseason long, man. I believe he joined your dad's podcast, Mike, last week and was just praising them left and right. So, guys, we're running out of time here, so it's finally time for the Gojo Rose of the Week. Who or what in the silly rock that we are living on right now has earned your admiration and receives this week's rose, Mike?
That would be Mike Tomlin for gifting his team with black Air Force One lows before their Week 1 upset of the Cincinnati Bengals. The official shoe of getting bleep done and letting everybody know that it ain't going to be good when I show up here. Mike Tomlin knows how to send a message, knows how to motivate a team, and more than anything, knows how to make sure he is never below 500 by starting and knocking off the team that appeared in the Super Bowl for the AFC last year.
Hell yeah, brother. All right, Brandon, let's go.
Jason Sudeikis Got to give it to them. They're back-to-back champions for the Emmys Comedy Series championships for Ted Lasso.
Yes.
I think that's a big sports story. I'll go ahead and give my rose to Ted Lasso and everyone over there at Apple Plus.
I love that, man. That show maybe saved my life early in the pandemic. I don't know if I'm exaggerating there, but it was fantastic, and I can't wait for it to come back. The way the last season ended, oh man. It's going to be juicy. It's going to be a little spicy, but still feel good for sure. Gentlemen, lovely talking with you as always. I can't wait already for next Wednesday when you were back here on The Sweat. Stick around, folks, because we're going to dive into week 2 of some of the NFL spreads, including Robert Saleh. I wonder if he will be taking more receipts after this week's game against the Browns. All right, back here on The Sweat, week 1 of the NFL season is behind us. You've probably been dumpster diving in your season-long fantasy leagues waiver wire all morning long. But right now, we're going to go over to the DK Sportsbook because we have some spreads to discuss with these 3 gentlemen. So Pierce Dietrich is here. Julian Edlow is here. Jeff Pratt is here. You guys are going to tell us if the following spreads are too high, so too long, or too low, which would be too short. I don't know why we don't call this segment too long or too short, but that's Tom Glennon's decision, not mine. The Jets started the year with a loss here, guys. 6th time in the last 7 years they have started their season with a big old fat L. On Monday, here we go. Head coach Robert Saleh addressing the media following his team's 24-9 loss to Baltimore and said this, quote, "We're all taking receipts on all the people who continually mock and say that we're not going to do anything. I'm taking receipts, and I'm going to be more than happy to share them with all of you when all is said and done." So, Jules, keep in mind he will likely be watching this show right now and taking receipts. Jets 6-point dogs in Cleveland for week 2. Is that spread too high or too low?
It's too low. It should probably be sitting around a touchdown. I know, look, the Ravens are better than the Browns, and we just got the Ravens at under a touchdown against the Jets, but the Browns are the home team here. And I think what we saw from the Jets in week 1 is that they're just not very good with Joe Flacco. I don't think they're good with Zach Wilson either, but you can't get me interested in the Jets at anything unless this was over 7. So I think that the Browns, I know it was a little bit of an emotional spot for the Browns. It's not quite the Russell Wilson game, but it was the Baker Mayfield game, and they won it. But you're still coming home and facing a really bad team. I would think that the Browns should probably win this game by about a touchdown.
Okay,
they should be able to run all over the Jets.
All right, Pierce, you agree with that?
I agree that the Browns should be able to win, but this is still the Browns. I don't see them covering very many games this season, especially with Jacoby Brissett as a quarterback, but I also don't see them covering a touchdown or higher. The Jets aren't getting any respect, and rightfully so. Flacco does not look good, but there's plenty of weapons there. The receivers looked good last week, all graded out well. Michael Carter out of the backfield catching passes. They can move the ball. they're not going to win. The Browns will win this game, but this is definitely a backdoor cover alert. The Browns should be able to run all over the Jets, just like they were able to run all over a weak rush defense in Carolina. But even then, you still got Prescott at quarterback. They still don't have any weapons at receiver. This game's going to be closer than what we expect. I recommend no one watch this game, though, by the way. It's terrible teams.
All right, Jeff.
I can get on board with that.
Yeah, Jeff, what side are you falling here? Too high, too low?
This is too low. I hope Robert Saleh has storage on his phone because he's going to be taking a lot more receipts this week after the Jets get blown out by the Browns. And I think that this is going to be a blowout. If Cleveland can beat the Panthers, who I think are miles better than the Jets, then they can beat New York by at least a touchdown. I fully expect Nick Chubb to rush for at least 150 yards in this one and then just pick apart that Jets defense.
All right, how about a division matchup here? Brady and the Bucs. They're road favorites in New Orleans. New Orleans, by the way, 4-0 against Tampa Bay since Tom Brady has joined the party down there in Tampa Bay. So the Saints getting 3 points? No, Saints now getting 2.5 points, down from 3 to 2.5. Is this spread too high or too low for you, Pierce?
It's too low. I'm going to go with Tampa, and I know that Tom Brady has struggled against the Saints in the past, but the reason that he has struggled is because the same reason he always struggles in games. If you can get pressure on him with the front four, then yeah, Tom Brady is going to be rattled. He's going to have trouble. We saw that in New England. We've seen that in Tampa. But you look at last week. Now, it's a one-game sample size, so I might be overreacting a little bit. Typically, the Saints front four are amazing. They've graded out well over the last handful of seasons. But they got absolutely no pressure last week on Marcus Mariota. Mariota had a 10% pressure rate. They hit him just once. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't stop the run. That front four looked confused and lost. And yeah, Mariota's mobility probably had a little bit to do with that. But ultimately, they were just getting beat on the line of scrimmage. I imagine they're going to get beat on the line of scrimmage again. This should be another big week for Leonard Fournette. Fournette goes well. That's going to open up passing lanes and give time to Tom Brady. And I'll gladly take the Buccaneers, who didn't really have to push much in week one. They were pretty safe and conservative. There's still a lot left in the tank for Tampa.
All right, Jeff. Again, Saints 4-0 against Brady in the regular season since you joined Tampa Bay, though the Bucs did win that playoff matchup.
Yeah, and I agree with everything Pierce said. There's also a major factor here, which is Sean Payton's no longer with the New Orleans Saints. They have a new head coach. I'm not sure how we can say this spread is too low after the Saints almost lost to the Falcons last week. The Bucs defense was a force of nature against the Cowboys, who have a much better offense than New Orleans. I do think water will find its level a little bit, and the Saints will at least find the end zone in this matchup. But I feel like Tampa's going to drop at least 24 points, probably more. They're going to cover this spread handedly.
All right, Jules, too high or too low? This feels like one of those games that'll come down to the last possession.
Yeah, I mean, I would say 3 is the right number. So where it used to be at New Orleans plus 3.5, I would say it's too high. At Tampa minus 2.5, I would say it's too low. That's what I think the number is. So that's how I'll answer it. I can't bet this game. I would lean to Tampa minus 2.5, but the Saints have been a bad spot for Brady, like we touched on, and that big win for Brady came in the playoffs. The regular season ones have been speed bumps for him. It's kind of been like Miami was to Brady in New England. The Saints have been to Brady in Tampa. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Saints looked a lot better in this game. I think they have a much better offense than the Dallas Cowboys, even with Prescott in there, to be honest. So I think the Saints have the ability to put more pressure on Tampa than they saw last week. But that said, yeah, we're splitting hairs here. So it should be 3 would be my opinion.
I mean, the Colts opener was an absolute dud, Jeff. So that was a disgusting tie against the Texans. So the AFC South, the only division, does not have a winner in it after week 1. It's not enough to lose their favorite status, though, because they're in America's City going up against America's team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jags lead the league in penalties right now, so they've got that going for them, which is nice. Indy, a 4-point favorite on the road. This spread too high or too low, Jeffrey?
Is it crazy to say I think this spread is about right? Emerson heading down to America's team. I expect the Colts to figure it out eventually and win the AFC South because this division is just a train wreck, but they looked awful last week. And meanwhile, I saw improvements in key places from the Jaguars in their week 1 performance. Yes, they were penalized a ton, but Trevor Lawrence looked better. He has an upgraded receiving core to work with. It seems like he has a great rapport with Christian Kirk already. James Robinson looked great coming off a torn Achilles, and the defense wasn't awful. I expect Indy to win this one, but it's going to be another close, ugly game. So I think the spread is about right. I'm not sure where I would lean if I was betting this one.
All right, Jules, this is an improved Jacksonville team that will get better with each week.
No, I mean, Jacksonville is still Jacksonville. They're going to go under their 6.5 win total as they always do. And one of them is going to be right here to the Colts. I would say the number is a little too low in my opinion. I think the Colts are primed for a bounce back here. They lose in Jacksonville all the time. They've heard that narrative, just like the week 1 narrative that they can't win the week 1 game. And that came to fruition last week. I think they're sick of these narratives. They're going to run it with Jonathan Taylor, get over 150 yards, and the rest of the offense will be improved, I would say. So I think that this is a game that Indy needs and that Indy will get most likely by more than 4 points.
Yeah, Pierce, unfortunately, Jonathan Taylor owns the Jaguars.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people that own the Jaguars.
Stop it, Pierce.
Yeah. This number, I hate to say it is too low. I'm probably not going to go anywhere near it because it is hard to trust the Colts. They are just an uninspired team. We see it in week 1. We go back to week 18 last year. This coaching staff has all the talent to make the playoffs and win games, but they never can get the team to really do what they need to do. So why won't that happen again in week 2 against a Jaguars team that upset them at the end of the season when the Jags had nothing to play for or really had nobody on that team? The Colts, though, probably look worse than they actually were last week. They had a couple of touchdown passes that were dropped. They had a ton of yards on the ground. They just didn't get any points. They probably are likely to convert those. And then on Jacksonville on the other side, not just the penalties, but the offensive line didn't play very well. 30% pressure rate on Trevor Lawrence. He was hit almost, I think, more than any other quarterback last week. That's probably not a good trend moving forward. And the Colts were able to apply a lot of pressure on Davis Mills, which you would expect from a bad Houston line. Well, you got a bad Jacksonville line they're going to face this week. So it doesn't really bode well. Full disclosure, I'll just stay away from this one because I don't know which team's going to show up or who they are yet. It's too early in the season.
Maybe another game, Jules, that really I just wouldn't put on my television at all. After Denver's head coach Nathaniel Hackett here, Jules, helped the Seahawks start the season 1-0. Guess what? Seattle enters week 2, 9.5-point dogs on the road in San Fran, who lost an ugly one to the Bears in reigning Chicago. Dude, it was extremely moist in the Windy City for that game. Is this spread too high or too low?
This spread is too high, and I like a lot of the double-digit range favorites this week. The Packers are going to bounce back against the Bears. The Broncos are going to get right. Broncos should have scored twice as many points in that Monday night game. They're going to get right against the Texans. This one, I don't know. Seattle looked pretty good in that game. Geno Smith looked pretty good in that game. And I know that the weather held back the Niners in some ways, but they were still up double digits in that game. Congrats if you used the double-digit, the 10-point early win money line on the Niners on DraftKings Sportsbook on Sunday because you needed it. I don't know how they gave up those late points to the Bears, but they did. Trey Lance has to prove it to me. A lot about this Niners team just isn't in place. If Seattle wasn't coming off the emotional Monday night, short week, the emotional Russell Wilson return game, I would have grabbed Seattle plus 10 immediately. It's not the best spot for Seattle going on the road after that Monday night game, but just from a value standpoint, I don't know if the Niners can be laying double digits to many teams right now.
Pierce, I believe Geno Smith was added to the MVP market, too, after his performance the other night, plus 8,000. This is not a layup for San Francisco by any means.
Well, I'm glad DraftKings Sportsbook has been paying attention to me. I've only been hyping Seattle, the one-man Seattle hype show all season. Take the money line on this. Seattle is going to win this game.
Okay.
I love the narratives that are getting spun. No one wants to talk about the game. People want to talk about, oh, Hackett blew that game, or they turned the ball over in the red zone. Please keep spinning that narrative as that's what happened. Apparently, no one has ever watched a Seattle Seahawks game. They win ugly. They've been winning ugly for a decade. It's what Pete Carroll does. You look at Pete Carroll's numbers. He has a top 10 winning percentage. He is a Hall of Fame coach, and yet still people say, oh, he's one of the worst coaches. All they can remember is one Super Bowl play. It's the craziest thing that people's minds have been warped by one play. And it happened again last week. Oh, well, they did a stupid play at the end of the game. Seattle played really well. Rashad Penny played well. Geno Smith as predicted, was strong. And if you watched his games last season, he did exactly what he always does. You put Geno Smith in a good situation, he can hit the ball down the field. He's got the receivers, and the defense is much better than they're getting credit for. San Francisco, on the other end, the story is always raining. Okay, we'll see. It didn't seem to hurt the Bears that much. The rain, for whatever reason, didn't affect the Bears. But the Niners, oh my goodness, they can't play in the rain. Take the money line.
Jeff, the Seahawks have won the last 4 in this NFC West series, including the last 3 at San Francisco. And now they have Geno Smith, a better quarterback than Russell Wilson.
Absolutely, right? I mean, Geno Smith is an MVP caliber quarterback. I brought this up yesterday, but I will be all over the spread on the Seahawks side here. This is definitely too high, and I love Pierce's take. I think Seattle can absolutely win this game. I understand San Francisco's season opener was a torrential downpour, but as Pierce said, it didn't really affect the Bears that much. I'm not sure clear skies made a huge difference, or they would have made a huge difference for the Niners. I wasn't very impressed with Trey Lance. Yes, the conditions didn't help him out, but when he was throwing the ball, he consistently made the wrong decision. Now they're without Elijah Mitchell, and the defense just isn't as intimidating as it has been in years past. So Seattle should definitely cover this spread, and they could easily win this game.
All right. Love you guys. That's all the time we have because we have gorgeous golf gurus standing by. Time for some golf talk because the Fortinet Championship is back. We take a look at the best DFS plays of the week, including Hideki Matsuyama, former Masters champion. Is he worth paying up for this week? An answer that we will give you right after this break. All right, we're wrapping up the show with some PGA Tour price check because the tour has returned for the Fortinet Championship. We had DK contributors Jeff Ulrich, Reed T. Fowler. We got RotoWire senior golf writer Len Hochberg here as well. Before we dive into this, though, Reed, you said you have to get something off your chest really quick.
Are we still paying these guys, Jeff? Pierce Dietrich talking about Seattle winning this game outright. Give me a break. The whole Chicago, San Francisco, and how it didn't affect Chicago. If these guys actually opened up a book and did some research, and I'm sure Pierce, when he's not DFSing, he should be doing this, is that Soldier Field is historically hard to play on, especially when it rains. They grow that grass out extremely high. There was no George Kittle. Are you kidding me? These guys want to take a Seattle money line with Geno Smith? Give me a break. Get these guys off the show. That is absolutely...
Get him out of here.
Get him out of here.
Oh, my God.
Good Lord.
Let's go.
Sorry,
all right.
Golf now.
Okay,
Sorry.
yes. All right, great. I'm glad you feel better. You look better. It's great to have you three here. Yeah, guys, so this week, Hideki Matsuyama, by the way, top of the board at 10-7. So he's just one of 4 golfers who are going to cost you at least 10 grand, including the defending champ here, Max Homa. So it's not exactly a star-studded field. You three know that. But does it make sense to pay up for one of these expensive guys, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, but I think you need to be choosy. Like, I mean, I don't think that it's so easy where just because we've got the President's Cup going next weekend that you should just be jumping on these guys as if it's a regular week. I think that the focus for a lot of these 5 players in the President's Cup is going to be a little bit different. I like looking at Corey Connors. I think when you look at the whole here, Corey Connors is a pretty experienced player. He doesn't have to be in the field this week, but he's clearly a player who, like, you know, with how good he is tee to green, I think the one thing we know about Corey Connors is that he should be piling up maybe another win or two. And I think you look at him coming to a course like this, driver heavy, where off the tee play matters. He is so consistent, just long and straight. I think this course sets up well for him. I think that's part of the reason why he's here. So that's the reason I like Connors. You look at Homa, Matsuyama, might be more of a tune-up for these guys before the big event next week.
Connors finishing 20th in scoring average last year. Reed, do you feel like paying up for one of these dudes?
Not really, especially not Hideki. You know, I think Hideki's probably using it as tune-up for next week, and that's kind of what it feels like for him too. Like, how is he in shape golf-wise? We know that he comes in with a lot of ailments usually, and he's always a WD risk, right, at midway through the tournament. So I'm with Jeff. Corey Connors is the guy. He's fourth and off the tee, third in approach over his last 24. Looks like that guy that could win this, but I really like the 9K range.
Okay, Len, your thoughts about the 10K range?
Yeah, I could see why you would think that Hideki is just coming in to tune up, but I didn't recall. He plays here a lot. He's been here a number of times at this tournament. It was a surprise to me. He was sixth last year and sixth once before. 10-7 is a very nice price for the top guy on the board. Last year, as you recall, John Rahm was $12,100. So this is significantly cheaper. Putting not really on the top of the skill set this week. Tee to green, that's where Hideki shines. Strokes gained around the green, scrambling, he is really good there. I do like Hideki this week.
All right, Reed, you just said you like the 9K range, and it's highlighted by last year's runner-up, Maverick McNeely. He's 9'9". Who is your dude in this department?
Yeah, I'm doing the Jeff Ulrich here. 9'9", 9'8", and 9'6 are the three guys that I really like quite a bit. Taylor Pendrith, Cameron Davis, and Matt McNeely. Two of those three guys are on the international team, and they want to show out, right? I think with Hideki, and remember, I think John Rahm, if I'm not mistaken, Len, didn't he miss the cut here last year? Or the
he might have, and it was the week before the Ryder Cup. So
exactly,
I think
right? Yeah. So again, you don't want to correlate the two, right? But you know, that's something that does kind of scare me. But look at those, and Pendrith and Davis especially, right? I love Maverick Neely. He's in all of my articles as a guy that I like. I'm definitely batting him. But those two, and Pendrith and Davis, they want to show up their first Ryder or their first President's Cup. So I think they're coming in with a lot of form. Give me Pendrith though. He was so close in Detroit. He's got the driving and the putting ability that you need here. So I like Pendrith the most.
Okay, Mr. Len, 9K range.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on Pendrith. He missed 4 months last year, or else we would have heard a lot more about him. He was 8th at the BMW when he finally came back, and 2nd at the Rocket Mortgage. I think he is going to surprise a lot of people next week at the President's Cup and can beat some of these guys in some of these matches.
All right, Jeff Ulrich, talk to me here, dude.
Yeah, my only worry about Pendrith is it's just such a big week for him coming up. And like the same thing with Max Homa. Like it's their first kind of, appearance on the world stage. But Pendrith certainly sets up well. I like going down to Davis Riley personally at 9,400. I think he's got just as much talent as the players in front of him. And I certainly will take him over Maverick McNeely in a heads up as well. He's really gained a lot of big time strokes off the tee at some tougher courses last year. You look at Valspar. I think he can get it done on a course like this. I really do. And at 9,400, I'll take the discount there. That is the one player, Reed, that I'm targeting in the 9K range.
All right. Well, Jeff, you mentioned as we go to the 8K range here, like you mentioned Justin Suh yesterday. He's in the mix there at $8,200. So he's the Corn Ferry Tour points leader. You mentioned him as a long shot bet yesterday, but would he be someone you would consider playing in DFS?
Yeah, no, and the thing is, I think the 8K range, you can do the old spray and pray a little bit more. I mean, there's a lot of quality players down here. Webb Simpson's too cheap. Taylor Montgomery was smashing it on the Corn Ferry Tour, but Justin Suh, he just won. He just beat this field. And the nice thing about Justin Suh is he's priced fine. And then no one really seems to want to play him. It's not like people are jumping on board here. It's a very talented player, was getting mentioned in the same breath as Morikawa, Hovland, those guys when they're coming up. He's just taken an extra year here to get it in gear. I'll be fine just riding him, early, especially when no one else is on him yet. There are other very playable players. Mullenix is too cheap too, but Justin Suh is the guy. I really do think you should stay on him early. I think there's a good chance you see a really, really good season from him.
All right, Reed, quickly, is this a week you can roster some of these lesser-known names? You got to take some chances this week.
Oh yeah. How about the 6K range? Because I know I'm going to combine two questions here. So we're running short on time. 6K, Carl Yuan, my man, leader in the Corn Ferry points regular season. He just rattles off a ton of birdies. Is a very prolific driver. He's 6K, guys. So he's probably one of my favorite cheap plays.
All right, Len.
Yeah, I'm just loading up on Taylor's. Taylor Montgomery, Taylor Moore at $600, 10 top 25s last year. He was my sleeper pick going into last season. He delivered my sleeper pick this season. Taylor Montgomery, he was 11th in Torrey Pines last year in one of his few PGA Tour events last year.
All right, guys, just need a name from you here. Who is your favorite DFS play for the Fortinet Championship at Silverado, Reed T. Fowler?
I'll go Cameron Davis.
Jeff Ulrich.
Davis Riley.
And Len Hochberg.
Taylor Moore, 7,600. He could fit in any lineup.
Love it, gentlemen. Good stuff. Let's talk more Fortinet Championship tonight on a 5 o'clock Wednesday edition of The Slate. Reed T. Fowler, Jeff Ulrich, and yours truly will be there. And I'll see everyone back here live in studio tomorrow morning for a Thursday edition of The Sweat. 11 o'clock Eastern Time. Peace.
Fade Pierce.
You get the good NFL bets then, too.